Promises are made in moments of love, of passion, of hope. But sometimes those promises lead us to a truth that we weren't prepared for. It's time for me to share that truth with you now because it's been waiting long enough. I made a wild promise, one that carried so much weight. But as time passed, I began to understand that promises are not just words. They carry the truth of our hearts. It's time I share that truth with you. What I promised you was real, but it wasn't the full picture. The truth behind that promise is more complicated, and now I'm ready to tell you everything you need to know to understand it all. It's easy to make promises in the heat of the moment, to promise everything we think the other person wants. But it's much harder to share the truth, the real truth, behind those promises. And today, that's exactly what I'm doing. Sometimes the promises we make come from the best intentions, but life has a way of revealing the deeper truths we didn't expect. Now it's time to open up and tell you the truth that will explain everything. I made a promise to you, but what I didn't realize was that the truth behind it was far more important than the promise itself. Today, I'm ready to share that truth with you, and I hope it helps you understand me better. Promises are not always what they seem, and sometimes the truth behind them is harder to hear than we'd like. But I made that promise, and now it's time to reveal the truth that's been hidden beneath it. The wild promise I made was only part of the story. The real story lies in the truth that follows, the truth that I've kept from you, waiting for the right moment to share it. I promised you the stars, and while that promise was real, the truth about how to reach them is much more complicated. It's time I reveal that truth to you and explain everything behind the promise I made. Promises are sometimes made with a heart full of hope, but they can also lead us to uncomfortable truths. It's time for me to tell you the truth about the promise I made and why it's so important. I made a wild promise, and it felt like the right thing to do. But as time goes on, the truth becomes more apparent, and I realize that sharing that truth with you is the next step in our journey together. Promises can be easy to make, but the truth behind them isn't always simple. Today, I'm ready to share the truth with you, the truth that will explain everything about the promise I made. The promise I made was never meant to be a lie, but sometimes the truth behind it is more complicated than I ever imagined. Now, I have to share that truth with you because it's time you knew. I thought my promise to you was enough, but now I realize that the truth is what truly matters. It's time for me to reveal what I've been holding back, the truth that will make everything clear. I made a promise in a moment of passion, but now the time has come to share the truth. The truth is the key to understanding everything, and it's time for you to hear it. What I promised you was only part of the story, and now it's time to reveal the rest. The truth behind the promise will change everything, and it's time you knew it. I promised you the world, but the truth is that promises are just words. It's the truth behind those words that defines everything. And now, I'm ready to share that truth with you. The promise I made was real, but the truth is far more important. It's time for me to tell you the truth behind the promise and to show you the depth of what I feel. In the midst of my promise to you, there's a truth that needs to be heard. It's the kind of truth that will make sense of everything, and now it's time to share it. I made a promise to you, but there's a deeper truth that I've kept from you. Today, I'm ready to open up and share that truth, no matter how difficult it might be. Promises can be fragile, but the truth behind them is the foundation. It's time for me to share the truth I've kept hidden for so long, so you can understand the full picture of what I promised. The wild promise I made was a gesture of hope, but the truth behind it is far more complex. Now, I'm ready to tell you the truth that will change everything between us. Promises are easy to make, but the truth is often harder to share. It's time for me to share the truth behind the promise I made, and I hope you'll understand why it matters so much. I promised you everything, but now I see that the truth behind that promise is what truly matters. It's time for me to share that truth and let you in on the reality behind the promise. The promise I made was just the beginning. The real story lies in the truth that comes next. And now it's time to tell you everything I've kept hidden. I made a wild promise about us, a promise that stretched across time and dreams. But as the days pass, I realize it's time for you to hear the truth behind those words, a truth that's been waiting to be spoken all this time. We've shared so much, built a bond that defies logic, yet there's something I've kept from you. I promised to give you all of me, but now it's time to share the piece I've hidden away, the truth that will change everything between us. In the quiet moments when I look at you, I know the promise I made was more than words. It was a commitment that carried weight. But now there's a truth I must tell you, one that has lived inside me, waiting for its moment. I once promised you the world, every single part of me, but there's something you need to know, something deeper than all the promises I made. It's time to unravel the truth and let you see what's been hidden in my heart. They say promises are meant to be kept, but some promises carry truths that are harder to face. It's time for me to open up and show you everything I've been holding back, everything that will explain the wild promise I made to you. I thought I could shield you from the truth, protect you from the complexities of my emotions. But promises, no matter how wild, are always rooted in reality. It's time for me to share that reality with you. The promise I made to you was more than just words. It was an invitation into my soul. But sometimes, those promises lead us down paths we never expected. Now, I have to tell you the truth that will make everything clear. In the whirlwind of promises and emotions, I realize that sometimes the most important thing is the truth we're too afraid to say. It's time I reveal what's been weighing on me so you can understand the depth of what I promised. I once made a wild promise, a vow that came from the deepest part of me. But time and experience have shown me that there's more to the story, and the truth behind my promise is something I need to share with you. Promises are fragile things, and sometimes we make them without fully understanding the consequences. But the time has come for me to tell you the truth behind the promise I made, and I hope you're ready for it. The truth I've been carrying isn't easy to say, but it's necessary. I promised you something wild, something that felt impossible. But the truth is much more complex than either of us could have imagined. There are things in life we promise with the best of intentions, but as time goes on, we realize that those promises are more complicated than we first thought. Now, it's time for me to tell you the truth, the one I've been hiding. The wild promise I made to you came from a place of pure intention. But as life has unfolded, I've come to understand that there's a truth waiting to be told, a truth that will change everything between us. Sometimes we make promises because we believe they are what the other person needs to hear. But today, I'm ready to share the truth, no matter how difficult, because you deserve to know what lies beneath the promises. In the rush of emotions, I made a promise I thought that would bring us closer, but now I realize that promise holds a truth that might change the way you see everything, and it's time I shared it with you. It was never just about the promise I made. It was about the truth behind it. I promised you the world, but now I need to tell you the truth that will reveal just how far I'm willing to go for you. We've spent so much time chasing the dreams we built together, but there's a truth I've been hiding, something that's been quietly evolving inside me. It's time I finally tell you what that truth is. Promises are meant to be kept, but sometimes they come with hidden truths we don't want to face. Today, I'm ready to share the one truth I've kept from you, the one that will make everything clearer. I made a promise to you, one that came from the depths of my heart. But the truth behind that promise is something I need to share with you because it's time for you to see the whole picture. There's something about promises that feels so final, so absolute, but the truth behind them isn't always as simple as it seems. It's time for me to reveal the full story and tell you the truth I've been holding on to. I made a promise to you, a wild one that felt right at the time. But as I look back, I see there's more to the story, a deeper truth I must share with you, no matter how difficult it may be. The promise I made to you was born out of hope, but the truth behind it is far more complex. Today, I'm ready to open up and tell you everything, to give you the truth I've been holding back for too long. I promised you things that I thought would be enough to make us whole. But as time passes, I've realized that the promise was only a beginning. Now, it's time for you to hear the truth, the one I've kept hidden in my heart.